Today we're going to do the first free response question from the 2016 free response exam. Historically, the questions from the 2016 exam were the hardest questions I've ever seen in my 15 years of teaching AP Computer Science. So they're probably going to take you a little longer than normal. Okay, so this question involves a random string chooser. A random string chooser object is constructed from an array of non-null string values. When the object is first constructed, all of the strings are considered available. The string chooser class has a getNext method, which has the following behavior. A call to getNext returns a randomly chosen string from the available strings in the object. Once a particular string has been returned from a call to getNext, it is no longer available to be returned from subsequent calls to getNext. If no strings are available to be returned, getNext returns none. So here's an example of how the random string chooser works. So it starts with a string array. Notice there are 4 strings here. So here we construct the random string chooser object, and it refers back to this string array. Now, if I make a loop and I print all of the contents of the string chooser by hitting getNext, notice that we randomly print the contents of the array, but since we are going to an index value of 6, instead of getting a null pointer exception, what happens is we print none and none. So you're being asked to construct the entire random string chooser class. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say public class random string chooser. So we're going to go ahead and create an array list, because since we're going to be removing things from the data structure, a list and an array list is a better choice for us. So we're going to fill that array list with strings. Remember, array lists grow and shrink as needed. So now I'm going to make my constructor. I wish they wouldn't have picked such a long name, but it is what it is. And we're going to send to it a reference to the string array. So I'm just going to call that it. Now what I need to do is I need to copy the entire contents of this string array into my list. So at this point, all I've created is the reference X, but I actually have to instantiate the new array list. So I'm going to say equals new array list, and I'm going to tell Java that it's full of strings. So now I need to use some kind of loop. I'm just going to use a regular old for loop to populate that array list. So I'm going to say as long as I is at less than it.length, I plus plus. And what I'm going to do is say x.add. And what am I going to add? I'm going to add the contents of it at that index value. So again, I'm going to grab the contents in the string array. I'm going to add it to my array list. And so that finishes my constructor. And now I'm going to move on to the getNext algorithm. So remember, the getNext is going to return a string. So what we need to do in this is we're going to actually need to start randomly removing things from the array list. And if I run out of elements to remove, then I'm going to return none. So we're going to, again, refer to X. We're going to start with what happens if we've removed everything. So if I say if x.size is less than 1, that means it's empty, then I'm going to return the string none. So and if it's not empty, that means I have things that I can return. So what I need to do first is create a random number based on the size of the array list. So I'm going to say int I equals, and actually let's call it j, equals int. I'm going to take x.size, that'll give me what's left in the array, times math.random. So that's going to take an integer value times a random number generator. And remember, this gives us a value between 0 inclusive and 1. So that'll take care of all the available index values. And what I want to do is I want to return a string. I want to return the one I'm going to remove from the array list. So that takes care of that. So that's the entire class. Now we're going to move on to part B. It says the following partially completed random letter chooser class is a subset of the random string chooser. You will write a constructor for the random letter chooser class. So it takes a string and returns an array of string letters. So we're going to send it a string, and if we send it the string cat, what it's going to return to us is a string array with the individual letters C, A, and T. So the following code could be called from the letter chooser class, where we would print letter chooser.getNext, and it would print out the individual letters. But if we go past the number of letters in the list, then it would print out none. So let's go ahead and code up our random letter chooser. So we're going to be expecting you to use the method that you coded in the other method. So getNext, since this is a child. So we're going to take this, and I'm going to go ahead, and since this is a constructor, we can say super, and we're going to send it get single letters str. And what this will do is get an array, then call the constructor from the parent class. So this is going to do two things at one time for us. And that's it for question 1 on the 2016 AP exam.